Before we move on, let's go ahead and take a look at what happens if we use layer styles on a text layer. So I'm just going to, I have the move tool, any tool would work, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to double click the text layer to bring up the standard layer style, the same one we're used to for everything we've done in the past. We can do standard stuff like applying a bevel or emboss. For example, if we do a pillow emboss, this could be fun. You can see the pillowing emboss. It's like pressing the words into a piece of paper. A lot of covers from the 90s on paperbacks would do this sort of thing. If we increase it, you can see it even better. We can soften it out if we want. I don't want to. Now we have an angle. You can use a global light, which will affect all of the settings throughout the layer style, or you can use a single light so that it won't affect other styles as you go through. I'll go ahead and leave it on global. So we have a fairly large one. This is our contour. We can build our own, and you can actually watch it happen as you go through, which can be quite fun. And you can also load in presets, and those presets are available right in here as well. You can increase the size of the thumbnail there if you'd like to be able to see it a little more clearly. And you can save these out and trade them around, have fun with them. So let's take a look at some of the others and how it behaves. Now this is with the large pillow emboss. If we do instead a standard emboss, you can see it's a little bit harsher. So maybe we would do less of a depth on something so harsh. And now maybe have the light coming from a different angle for this case. We could go down or up, and we could change the contour to be really anything we want. And you can anti-alias it if you'd like, and you can change your highlight mode. If you don't like screen, you could set it to something like overlay or soft light, or to lighten if you prefer. You can change your shadow mode from multiply to really anything, and you can increase or decrease the opacity. I'm actually going to leave it at screen. I think that will work appropriately for this. And then once you're happy with it, you've got an emboss. You can go in further and change the contour individually here. Same sort of thing. You can apply a texture if you'd like a texture to it, which can be kind of fun. You can do things like our standard stroke. I think we've done this a few times. You can add multiple strokes if you so desire. You can also get rid of strokes by pressing the trash can. To add more, anything that can have multiples will have the plus. And you can also, on some of these, change the direction. So if you had two, you could change the direction. You could change the stacking order on that. So in this case, I'm going to do an outside stroke. And I'm going to do maybe a red outside stroke, because why not? And then maybe I also want an inner stroke. So I'd make a second stroke. I'd set it to the inside, and instead of red, maybe this one will be pink. And maybe the blend mode on here will be multiply with a lower opacity. So I have overprint, which will change the way that the text is interpreted. It will stretch it out. We can change the fill type to be a gradient if we wanted, which can be good or bad depending on your gradient. If you wanted to follow along with the lighting, that could be useful. You could have an inner shadow if you so desired. I don't think I'd want that on top of everything else, but why not? You can control the contour for that as well. You can add a corner if you want to have a corner. You can have the distance on the shadow. I kind of like how that's dropping down. You can have this lever, the choke, and my understanding is it's a sort of hardness of it, or well, it's a dropping of it from a specific point. So without a choke, notice that this doesn't go that far. The distance, of course, can increase it, but this won't increase the horizontals, so will increase more the, it won't increase the verticals as much as it does the horizontals. You can increase or decrease the size, change the contour if you like, add noise to it, which is a lot like our dissolve effect. You can add an inner glow if you so desired. Screen mode's the default. maybe increase the opacity on it, maybe a different drop-off gradient like this pink, and maybe more choke on that and bigger, and kind of use the same one. There we go. Hard to see on here. That's fine. It's the screen mode. If you prefer, you can do a different mode. It's very hard to see on this. We've added on so many things that it's very difficult to see. You can add the satin on this if you'd like. Honestly, we're not going to see too much going on here. It's trying to create a satin-like effect. Again, at this point, we have so many effects that are going to be drowning out each other. You could do a color overlay if you so chose. We're not going to do a color overlay. I think you get the point. We have pattern overlays, gradient overlays, outer glows. Let's just add an outer glow. Why not? And we'll just spread this out. Okay, so we have a crazy number of effects going on. We tell it okay. Now, once we've got these effects, we can turn them on and off as we so desire. So if we've got too much nonsense happening, we can shut off as many of these as we'd like. Maybe just have a couple of strokes and a bevel. Now, once you have those, there's an interesting effect. If you change the opacity on this layer, it will change the opacity of the layer and the layer effects. Now, if you remember from a long time ago, the fill opacity will leave the effects, which means the text in this case is considered the fill. So you can remove that and just have these interesting effects going on in it instead. So now we can start doing things like all of these additional bits and pieces, maybe not the satin or the inner glow. Maybe the satin. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that, the outer glow. So you can start having these crazy effects going on, and these remain fully editable. So again, we can put things in and it's ready to go. And don't forget that once you have the effects, you can copy them over. I'm holding down the Alt key and move them to another layer and have them go that way. So don't forget, you also have your layer effects available on your text effects. There's a lot you can do, and it's hiding just under your nose. Now, with all that in mind, let me remove these effects. I'm just going to drag them to the trash can so we have the actual text. Don't forget also, if you like, you can apply effects to text and convert them to smart objects. So if we were to say, I don't know, crystallize this text, rather than rasterize, which means we can't edit it anymore, we can convert it to a smart object and then affect it as necessary. However, that's probably the worst possible one because of the color. So actually, let's do this. We will apply, say, a blur, which will be the easiest one to see that I can think of off the top of my head. I will do a Gaussian blur, allow it to be converted to a smart object. And now it doesn't seem to be editable anymore. Don't forget, you can double click a smart object, the smart object's thumbnail, to go in and adjust it. But also, let me hide our palettes here. Also, the smart object will crop down as small as possible, so you may need to increase sizes if you wanted to say the quick tall Baron Fox. It's now flying off the edge. Easy enough fix. Go to your crop tool and increase the size until it fits. Save. Save to make that adjustment. I'm going to close this tab. And now we have the quick tall brown fox, and it is blurred and out of sight. So remember, you do have even more tools and options available to you when working with text in Photoshop, because it still behaves as a layer, even if it's editable text.